Yeah, the whole world swears, but YouTube is still all pearl clutching and PG-13. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Captain's Table. I keep saying that. This isn't the Captain's Table. This is not just a pub. This is office hours. Galactic Historian office hours. Welcome to us, guys. I already said hello to everybody who came in. If you were Patreon, I have the office hours question log up on Patreon. For those who don't know, as patrons, you guys get to ask individual questions that are answered on these things on a regular basis. And then and you guys get shout outs in the end of every video. I'll probably shout you out at the end of this one as well, just because I want to sort of do it. But you can also come in and ask questions about lore and stuff. And if there's no questions, I do want to talk about could barely listen to me. What else do we got? God, that music was so loud. Yeah, it's Utho. Utho has really loud music. I love him, but man, he's loud. He mixes it for YouTube specifically because there's some issues with it. They actually they have YouTube will actually make your sound worse if you don't mix music the right way. Uther's taught me about that stuff. So, where's the Smuggler Triangle vid you mentioned last week? Mythic, it's going to be coming in either this week or next week. I'm going to be working on it this week. But welcome everybody, guys. Do you smell toast? No, Firefly. Preacher 6 for that 10 gift subs. Woo! Thank you so much for gifting those subs to Timble, Art Ninja, Coat, Wawa, Lemon Grab, Mayonnaise, Jet Black, Jerry Kill, Osgood, and Mr. Squarepeg. You guys are all very important pubbers. You very precipicers. You guys rock. Shots and cheers in chat, guys. Shots and cheers. He uses a little bit of it. I think he uses some of that style of music as well. It was pretty good. Do you know what show you're on right now? I don't know what show I'm on right now. Listen, Firefly, world's kind of crazy right now. Literally not 5 minutes away from me, there's stuff on fire. So, I got a lot of friends who work at Austin Fire who are going to have a very long night. Have been having very long nights, so. And I know they're angry about it, but not because they want it to, not necessarily because they want it to stop, but because nothing's being done to handle the issues that are at the core of problems. That's another discussion we'll have. Ancient Juan Kenobi. My thoughts on the Caterpillar. Caterpillar is sexy. She is a great ship and worth your time and worth your money. She is not going to be the best hauler in the universe. That will be the whole series. But if you want a ship that is modular, because eventually it will be modular, just not right now. You want a ship that's modular, that has a lot of good like skills, stuff that's attached to it. Then internal cargo bays and that kind of stuff. That's good because the whole series is going to be a little bit more difficult to kind of reach stuff and such. Thank you, Preacher. I mean, the big thing about being open and honest is, and I'm gonna be very clear about this for those of you guys. If you've been paying attention, about 2 years ago, I came out and talked about representation in video games, about how it's important, what it means, and I got some flack for it, but I still stand by it. So if you've been following me for a long time, and you didn't know my thoughts, my political thoughts on things like video games and representation and things like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, then you weren't paying attention. I haven't been subtle about it. The 30K issue is still killing the game. It is. The problem about the 30K issue is that it's going to kill the game until they get back-end stuff working that they don't have yet. It's always going to be a problem. Hey, Happy Shaft. Yeah, the blue has ended. Let's just do the blue they call this blue giveaway. Bleep. This is from the May Cutlass giveaway. I'll do the giveaway for June here, but we're still giving away a Cutlass Blue from CIG for the next week or so. So make sure you guys do ! Cutlass to get on that. And for you guys watching on YouTube, I'll put it in the top pinned comment. All right, let us winners, draw winners. All right. I've got the full name of this person, and they won because of a tweet on Twitter. Let's see their Twitch. His name is Ron691969. Ron691969. Woo! So if you're here, Ron, congratulations, you've won. I will announce the winner widget. Good job, Ron. I'll send you an email. I'll send you a Twitter DM or something like that, or an email detailing that. So nice. That is a nice name, Ron. Yeah, that is probably the biggest issue with cargo hauling is right now it's the 30Ks. Now, the 30Ks aren't too bad when it comes to hauling. You just need to make sure you know exactly what you're doing before. It's always going to be a risk, but I mean, so is crashing and blowing up your ship. One of the best ways of dealing with 30Ks is not to spend more than half. That's my rule, is usually more than half of your current UEC on any cargo loads. So you don't progress as fast, but you don't risk as much issues. And also doing missions alongside the cargo running helps as well, especially for like box missions. So if you're going to an area that you already know you're going to sell your cargo, just pick up some missions for box missions for that. Go pick up those box missions on your way to the drop-off zone. Go drop it off. Go deliver the boxes, and you got an additional 30K of 30 to 100K in some cases of money that you didn't have before. The key is to mix in your losses with some of the gains. And for those of you guys who are wondering about that smuggler triangle, I am working on it. The reason why it's not done yet is because I finished the Jumptown Wars episode 2 is done. She is done. It took me as long as the Jumptown Wars actually existed to finish it, but she is done. I put the credits in. I just got to watch her like 4 times. The episode 4 times to make sure everything is good, but she is done. Woo. An additional 30K. With other people's stuff. Yeah. So you're saying you shouldn't fill 2 Carracks and 2 Hercules Starlifters simultaneously? Yes, with other people's stuff. That's just called it's called piracy. It's piracy with extra steps. Or, I'm sorry, cargo loading with extra steps. Yeah, someone else posted something. I pinned it on the top comments for Star Citizen, but I think the person who was asking about it, when I said, I think it was Mythic who asked about it, because I was going to do a video on it, I think they wanted to also share it with their friends more than just a text document, because videos are pretty cool. And I want to start doing a little bit of more like those informational stuff, not tutorials necessarily. Like I've been working on an episode or a video about the economics of Star Citizen, what Star Citizen will look like in terms of its economic system when it's done, based off of what we know now, which is part of that and part educational video on what economics is, because a lot of people don't know that, or they don't know the right term for it. All right, so there was a message from Adam. Here. Saw your flicks my feet on the info runners. Why did you not pick up the Connie Phoenix as a bar ship? Because I'm not a big fan of the Connie Phoenix. It's because it's a Connie. It's not a bad ship, but I would prefer the 600 because it's a little bit larger and that kind of stuff. What are my thoughts on the RSI company? Didn't they kind of fall off the cliff during the Meza era and lose several contracts to Aegis? Sort of. RSI is the granddaddy of all space travel. So they fell off the cliff, but not nearly as hard as Aegis did at the end of the Mezzers. So when Aegis really gobbled up a lot of the stuff, RSI was still one of the only companies out there to have huge shipyards. RSI is one of the few companies that exists that has its own station. Like, I don't even know if it's a Lagrange station. I think it's more like a Dyson sphere, not a Dyson sphere. It's the tube. It's the name for it, and I don't know the name of it. You smart people out there will help me out with that one. There's a tube station where you kind of rotate it in the center, and you kind of put it in the center. It's what O'Neill cylinder. O'Neill cylinder. That's what it is. An O'Neill cylinder. I think they basically have like an O'Neill cylinder in Earth's orbit. That's just Roberts Space Industries. That's it. They own their own mini world. Thank you, Anxious. Yeah. I prefer the Connie Ball Phoenix. Yes. I saw players successfully docking their Caterpillar to their 890 jump in order to make larger cargo runs. It's possible. That is possible. I picked the Cutlass Black, the Renegade, the Caterpillar, the Mercury Star Runner, and the Cutlass Black, and the RSI LN Dragonfly Vulture, Explorer, Mustang Beta, and the Prospector, and my player pack is upgraded to a Freelancer Max. That's not a bad haul there, dude. That's really not a bad haul. Ships that work, Aurora and Polaris, nothing in between. I don't know, the Mantis works pretty well. And the Connie isn't terrible. She's just, when we talked about this in the captain's table, when the Connie gets her turrets to work, she would be fantastic. And I 100% agree. I don't remember if this was recorded on the captain's table or not, but we were talking about the idea of swapping the guns. So instead of the main guns on the Connie being size 3s or size 4 fixed, 3 gimbaled, you give the turrets on the Connie size 4 or size 3 guns, and you give the main guns on the Connie size 2s, because its main armament should be the missiles. And then once the turrets are functioning, then you have the turrets are the main armament of it, because it's got a 360 degree. You can hit a lot more stuff, especially if it's working better. The Connie suddenly becomes a gunship, which is what they want it to be in the first place. That's the key. The other issue is shields. They need to fix the shields for the Connie to be a little bit better. Toy Story is a colony from the Gundam franchise in orbit around Earth just to make ships. Yeah, essentially. I don't know if it's an O'Neill cylinder, but it's huge. It's something like comparable to that. They have a shipyards that's just ship making. That's it. Now other companies do as well, but RSI has had them since the 21st century. 22nd century, end of the 21st, early 22nd. They've had it for 800 years. So they are kind of kings in that kind of situation. And where when the Meza era took over, RSI lost a bunch of government contracts, so they said, okay, we'll just make civilian ships. And that's where the Aurora comes from, the Connie and all that kind of stuff comes right out of that R&D for civilian ships. They'd always made civilian ships. Now they just made more civilian ships. They also make spacesuits and terraforming technology and underwear. And like RSI makes everything. Making struts for almost 1,000 years. Has there been any updates to the Hope Class's hangar bay? Like maybe 2 Cutlasses or 2 Cutlass Reds or 1 Apollo? Probably getting bigger. I don't know. Gibbs signed distance field. Yeah. Search and rescue. That would be. Oh yeah, the SAR stands for search and rescue, if that's what you're asking. But search and rescue. They also have the Apollo. I want on Anvil slash Crusader vehicles slash cap ships when they're, and I'd be happy. I think that would really work well. I think a Anvil cap ship. I'm still thinking the best fit for an Anvil cap ship would be an Anvil battle cruiser, because it fits the mood of Anvil, which is we have big ship. Because I don't. They weren't ever like an. I think they were kind of an Earth-based company, but Anvil's main headquarters is in New Kiev, which is in Terra. Anvil's always screamed Russian design to me. Efficient Russian design. Whereas Aegis has always been more Lockheed Martin. And then you have the true Russian ship, which is Drake. Who needs safety? You have gun. Just fight better. You won't die. Military by design, ships for efficiency, purpose, and versatility. Yeah. They do. They need a battlecruiser because they need one long spinal mounted gun, which is just a destroy everything in its range. And it also needs a lot of DACA. It just needs like turrets, broadside turrets, and main line turrets like a battleship. They just go nuts. Yeah. Shoot the other guy first, yeah. MSR lore? MSR. Trying to think of that in acronym. I freaking know it, but I'm not. Mercury Star Runner. Mercury Star Runner. Mercury Star Runner is a very good ship. What do you want to know about it? The lore. I did a video on Crusader Industries like a couple months back that talks about the Star Runner. The only thing we really know is that it was made recently and that it's the only ship to win 2 consecutive years at in a dangerous rally race. Not a rally race, just a dangerous race, spaceship race. I can't remember the name of it, but... Did I ever play Freelancers? Yes. Yeah, I could see some of that. Baker Cup, thank you. I talked about it last week. The Baker Cup. Listen, don't be talking cinematic about my Drakes. I love my Drakes. They're not freelancers, but I love my Drakes. Pick some other stuff here. Add some tags and some Star Citizen. And then capture certification. Right, that's all updated. Firefly, you asked something about Tanaka and stuff like that. I don't know which one it is. We're gonna make a ship that's like the Falcon and have it win a dangerous race. Hey, what's going on? The Holy Truth. Hey, Johan, get some sleep, buddy. Rhineland ships, though. I mean, I played Freelancer. I didn't beat it, but I have played it. Would love the larger Argo cargo ships to compete with the Cat and the Orhole series. I'd love to see that too. I need to buy my Bucky back and shove it in a Carrack. Does it fit in a Carrack? The Argo is beautiful. Argo's design is awesome. Oh, no, are you going to call it Thunderbird? We're going to make a ship that's like the Falcon and then have win a dangerous race. An elite dangerous race? Hey, Loken, how's it going, buddy? Maddie, thank you so much for that 6 months of subs. And Loken, thank you so much for that host, for that beefy host. 309 viewers. Jeez. Welcome, everybody. My name is Paul. This is the Astropub. This is the captain's Galactic Historian office hours. I can't even do it right. This is the office hours, Galactic Historian office hours, where we talk about Star Citizen and lore. So, thank you, my man. We get a follow command for Loken Plays. Mads. Do you see CIG pushing the Star Runner back further? Nah. They're gonna want to keep. They're pretty. They're pretty hardcore on getting it done. It sounds like they're almost done. Honestly, it sounds like they're just kind of doing last minute modifications to it. Not almost done, like it's coming out in 310, but done to the point where they're starting to work on it in a more complete sense. Yeah. Thought I was watching STL Youngblood. Listen. I love STL. I haven't talked with STL in a long time. I actually asked him to come on a captain's table at one point, but he is a very busy guy, and he has a family that he has to take care of. And life can get very hectic for him. So he isn't always able to kind of get into the communities and stuff like that. So, community stuff. That's interesting. A gunboat. That might happen. Did they find it in the files or something at RSW? Because the key with leaks, the leaks Discord, is a lot of their stuff is theory crafting. It's about as accurate as I am when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Maybe less so in the long range stuff. But if they find it in the files somewhere, like if they find it in terms of like the connections, like there's often descriptors that are unhooked from the main game that they haven't hooked it into the main game, but it's still part of the files. That's how we knew about like things like food and water and what their effects were before they actually came into the game. The patch before it actually, because they had it listed in there. This is before CIG started. I don't think they even really talked about it extensively. Up to that point, they had mentioned it a couple times, but it found its way in like the 3.8.2 patch. And people saw it, so that's the key. Is like if they found the evidence and they've posted it, then I'd believe it. If it's just talking about it, that'd be kind of cool, I guess. Are you able to CCU to a 325A from a lesser ship currently? Yes, you should. It doesn't seem to work for me currently. I just checked with a Ranger RC and a Titan. That's weird. You should be able to. The 325A is a $75 ship or something like that. And the Titan is like a $60, $65. It's like $10 more expensive for the 325. And the RC may not be able to. There are some ground vehicles which you cannot CCU outside of ground vehicles. But I think that's changed a little bit. Actually, what is data running going to be in the game? I feel like it's just going to be a player and NPC stuff. It'll be a little bit of both. So data running is likely going to be information beyond just player and NPCs. So for instance, if you need to get a message or you need I have found an asteroid that I want to claim as mine. Okay? To the UEE. It's in UEE space. I found it. There's no claim on it. I want to claim it as mine. I hire an info runner to take my claim to a UEE office, like governmental office, and file that information. The reason why I do that is because if I do that, it's going to go faster than if I try to use the normal comm routes, and someone could still intercept it. I don't know how detailed it's going to be in terms of game, but that's the big thing. There was an audio file titled RSI, most likely some sort of trailer. Was going to start leaking shots of it later in the week. He wants CIG to develop more. Okay, cool. Nice. So yeah, that'd be nice. Not surprising. CIG seems to be very much in the mood to develop that hammerhead through Idris level of ships, because they know that, first off, you wouldn't have a ton of like battle cruisers, battleships, carriers, and super carriers like the dreadnoughts and stuff like that. Those will not have a lot of variety because they're expensive to make. So, but you'd have a lot more variety in the smaller military ships, the hammerheads up to the Idrises. So kind of like it's a faster transport, a lot of data over highways than the internet. Well, yeah, so Yuri, you got to also remember that faster than light travel doesn't exist in Star Citizen. So the way that information travels from system to system is that the relays will send information, bounce them off the relays until they reach a relay by a jump point, and then that relay at the jump point will then take the information, load that information into a probe, and then shoot that probe through the jump point. And so when that probe reaches the other side of the jump point, it docks with that relay station, uploads its data, and then that sends it out. You can think of like what Star Citizen's communication is it's light speed communication inside a system. But but in order to get it further, you have to send it through, like, essentially the Pony Express of a digital Pony Express, the post office, and it has to sort through all of the messages that are getting sent out. So the idea of the info running is part information and part money. I wouldn't be surprised if info runners were also essentially armored transports, armored cars, because UEC is digital. It's not a it has, I think it likely will have, I hope, a physical version of it, but it's mostly going to be a digital currency. So all that information needs to travel, and there's no way it's traveling down the lanes of typical travel. So you have to put it into a info runner, and the info runner will then zoom off with it to go make the deposits and change things. So you hope that. The problem is that a lot of people, as other people said, is like, if I know the coordinates of a location and I want to tell my org, I'll just tell them on Discord. Which is, the problems about having publicly available cord systems. The key to making info running more interesting for players is to do things like I just said. Armored transport. So if you're in an org and you made a bunch of money in Pyro, but you need to deposit it in Stanton, then you get an info runner with some escorts to just hightail it out back to Stanton to deliver your money. Yeah, it's the Mercury. It's also the job of the Herald and such. That's why they're fast in straight lines. When we get the Orion and Crusaders left on the roadmap. When we get the Orion, is that what you're asking? I don't know. 835A isn't there to CC my Titan and 315R. That's weird, Foxy. You might want to send a support ticket for that. Yeah, Dibley, hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of how that works. Essentially, a lot of it's going to be NPC-based, where take this bit of information from point A to point B. But because the way that communications work in Star Citizen, it's very... it's not perfect in that kind of situation. Good here. I'm going to put the nation point cutlass in chat. There we go. Copy link. When are you taking over the bar in Stanton? When are you taking the bar over in Stanton and taking your office hours from there? Well, I am going to be taking over the bar in Stanton. A bar in Stanton. I'm taking over the one in ArcCorp Friday. I've been meaning to do it, but I haven't done a Friday broadcast in a while because of other issues that have been happening. So, like last Friday, was it last Friday? Yeah, it was last Friday. What happened last Friday? 2 Fridays ago, I didn't because it was my wife's birthday. But then last Friday, I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure I didn't stream last Friday. Do you have any idea if Source will support steering for Cyclone and vehicles? Yeah, it probably will. The steering wheel? I think it already does. All right, let me put this in the top pin comment. Cutlass Blue giveaway. So if you guys are interested in that on YouTube, it's in the top pin comment. For the rest of you guys, it's on exclamation point cutlass in chat in Twitch. So yeah, time's kind of weird. Oh, I remember now what happened on Friday. The FBI showed up in my apartment complex. That's what happened last Friday. I'm glad I almost forgot about that. Damn. So yeah, usually I do it on Fridays, but I haven't been able to do that. So, since we've heard them talk about not releasing the Idris Javelin due to spoilers in Squadron 2, I reckon we'll start seeing a Kraken used by NPCs when we get the Pyro showing up. Maybe if they get it done. Hey, Black Intellect. Happy Taco Tuesday. Yep. It's not that exciting. Somebody in it was the apartment complex near me was arrested by the FBI. That's pretty much all I know. They were coming by when SWAT teams and bomb sniffer dogs, and they were just like, "Yo, stay inside. Don't come out for the next couple hours. We'll come back and tell you if it's all clear." Just because, dangerous. Good cover story, though. No, Adrian, I'm serious. The FBI showed up. Man, H does not forgive. Thanks, Farrell. So, Zephyr, you're asking Orion and the Crusader. Which Crusader are you talking about? Crusader's just the ship manufacturer. Which ship? The Hercules, the Star Runner, the Ares, the Genesis, and the Orion, I don't know. The Orion, the mining ship from RSI, that's probably a ways way down. Nice, IP switching. In my neighborhood. I talked about it on I think on Saturday when we were talking. Kind of man. I like the I like the jacket. The jacket for Fleet Week was pretty cool. Nothing yet for June. Oh, I should take off May. I thought I had that. We'll be doing that later. We still have the Cutlass to give away, so I got to make a decision by tomorrow. Any word on an Asoyan plague? I don't know if that's true or not. They may have stopped talking about it because of current events. Oh, the Crusader Giant, and then the Gas Giant, and then the Orison. You're talking about Orison. Okay, I see what you mean. So no news on both of those yet. CIG hasn't really been very talky about it recently. So they said that they put it away. They put it off because they're working on improvements to Grimhex. So likely it won't be until the quarter 4 patch, which is either 4.0 or 3.12. So considering trade overhaul is coming, trade deck for space stations plus economy app tier 0, etc. Do you reckon we'll see a major 4-point update where it all gets integrated and released to some holes simultaneously? No, but I think that that's where they're moving. So the best way of understanding is that I'm a big old hater of the term Jesus patch, because it doesn't exist. It's called release. That's the Jesus patch. So likely CIG is moving towards that, but you will have a separate patch that does all that integration. So you'll have a patch that does cargo deck. You have a patch that does accounting app. You have a patch that adds the hull in, and then you'll add a patch. You'll have a patch where the actual physical movement of cargo in and out will be done. That's probably going to happen sooner rather than later, but it requires a lot of back-end work, which they're working on and are making good progress on, according to last time they talked. So, not this year, but maybe next year, maybe a year after that. It'll be one of those situations where you just wake up and go, oh, wow. Like I've been doing recently, oh, mining is done. Mining is done. There'll be tweaks and stuff like that, from now until the till release, but mining, for all intents and purposes, is done. What else will they add? Everything else is refining. Oh, but sorting. It's the sorting is really not going to happen. I mean, the only other thing that they could add is the removing the saddlebags. But that's part of cargo. That's not mining. What fancy liquors do we have coming in the future? Radagast Whiskey, Tavaran Ghosts, Jean-Luc Champagne. Or is it Picard? I think it's Picard, because they can't. It's not the vineyards from Star Trek, but it's a reference to it. But no Romulan ale. The closest thing you got to Romulan ale is probably Tavaran Ghosts. That's moonshine. I think that's more of a refining, though, Mythic. I don't think you'll be able to do it in situ. I think it's going to be a refining thing where you refine out the inert materials. No, it's clear. Romulan ale isn't really ale. It's more like whiskey or vodka. No, I think it's Jean-Luc is actually what it's called. It's called Jean-Luc. It's a reference to Picard Vineyards, but it's not wine, it's champagne, and it's called Jean-Luc, not Picard. What we're talking about today? We're going to talk a little bit about the end of the Mezzer era, and we're talking a little bit about specifically Anthony Tanaka and the resistance movement against the Mezzers. Aren't human and Tavaran foods interchangeable? Not entirely, but mostly. Why Tanaka was right, yeah. Question: Origins G12 rover. Is that close or done? We don't know, Will. We don't know. They haven't said. I'm assuming that it's closer than you think. Earliest in my opinion, I'd see it is probably, I'd suggest seeing it like maybe the end of the year. It seems like a pretty close to being done. Oops, sorry. Are there any plans for allowing players to play as other races that you know of? There was an old mention back in 2013, 2014 of using players being allowed to play other races, but as an expansion pack once they're finished with the actual game. So, like, they said they weren't planning on doing paid expansions, but if they were going to do paid expansions, they want to make sure that it's not content related, meaning like it's not ships or missions or events in the universe. So, unlike Elite Dangerous, which did like the whole like you can't land on planets, the only content that they thought that they'd put behind a paywall that wouldn't be able to accessible by average players would be playing as aliens. Now, this is where my theory comes in. I think you're likely going to see a playable Tavaran race before you see any other races, because Tavaran are essentially UEE citizens. In fact, many of them are. So they're interchangeable with humanity. And I'm sure a lot of armor that's out there that exists in the verse is also interchangeable with the Tavaran. And since they wear the same armor as humans, it's a lot easier to model a Tavaran in universe for that same reason. And then the rest of them they'll add in later if they see how that works. So he's 5, and I just got him a Pisces starter pack. Yeah, he can call it the Stargazer. In terms of lore, what is something that would you would really like to update on, or something that would provide a lot of details to something very niche? Say something like the Kurthok. The Kurthok is something they're going to want to find. We're going to want to find out. I honestly want more information on the details behind the synth world. There's not a lot of details behind the synth world, guys. They talk about the lore behind it, about why they built it, and how it was discovered by accident, how it was a black project that was secretly being made, which is fine. But are we just taking rocks and smashing them together? Are we building like a Dyson sphere kind of world? Like, what are we building? What is this world? How is it being developed? Now, I know that a lot of that is probably, they don't want to go into detail about it because they want to figure out how they're going to make synth world in game before they try to talk about it. Because they don't want to like describe what the synth world is and then have it just end up being like an O'Neill cylinder, you know, or a Halo. The Cult World's pretty cool. That's Lear 2, I want to say. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing, buddy? What do you think the inspiration for the name Mezzer comes from? Mezzer is definitely German, I believe. Or no, it's either German or Scandinavian. I believe it might be a Scandinavian reference. It might be German. It's Central or Northern Europe. And then Ivar, which is the name of the first one. It's not Ivar, it's Ivar, is how they pronounce it, which I believe is Danish, I want to say. Norwegian, Danish, Scandinavian in general. Monsieur, yeah, but it's not Monsieur, it's Messer, it's or Mr. It's Messer. It's more of a last name. German for knife. They say something about finding new species. There is a new species. It's called the Kurthok, but it's so far off out of human reach that no human has ever seen one that we know of. And the Xi'an refuse to let humans see them because the Xi'an have been fighting a war with the Kurthok for thousands of years. Hey, Kuma, how you doing, buddy? A few weeks ago, we saw a lore post from CIG saying that R&R is the most common space station manufacturer in the verse. Will you ever see space stations from other companies with different styles? Yeah, they've talked about them in the past. There is one which is very popular. It's called Gold Horizon. They made stations for terraforming and corporate worlds. And the problem about them is that they built tons of them in places that weren't profitable, so they ended up going under, and no one's maintaining them. So, for instance, Ruin Station, which is in Pyro, is a Gold Horizon station. There are several of them all over the universe, and at one point, CIG's idea was that the Gold Horizon stations that are all over the universe will be mostly empty. And so those will be the stations that the players can actually control. Yuri, you're talking about the Hades system. It's the Blue Man. It's a creepy story. Yep. Is Hex such one? Yeah, well, Hex is a green Imperial station. But yeah, Hex Stations is just a housing exchange, is what it stands for. So GrimHex actually stands for Green Imperial Housing Exchange Station, which is a fancy way of saying it's kind of a cross between a hotel and an apartment building. You essentially rent out a Hex building or like a pod for long-term stays. It's kind of like a extended stay hotel where you stay there for a couple of months. That was the original purpose of it. And then while you're mining the Yellow Belt, and then you come back, there's a bunch of food stations and like restaurants and stores inside the station. So you go there, you buy and sell and stuff like that, and some people live there. Now, since then, it's fallen apart. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Green Imperial housing exchanges in places of high value for mining. Stuff that looks like GrimHex, but isn't as run down. Long-term temporary housing, yeah. So that's another good example. But they usually build inside of asteroids. I do not recommend. Tree, I don't doubt it. Yeah, so that Volk, that's kind of the idea, is that those green or those Gold Horizon stations will be empty for pirates and for players to take over. So when you show up, there may be an NPC faction that's taken it over, but if you have a large enough org, you can kill all the NPCs that are there, and then control the station and turn it into whatever you want. But you have to have people there to control it, otherwise they'll come back and take it from you. Or other NPCs or players will. So you can think of them as, that was the original plan, of course. This may change. You can think of them as hotspots, designated hotspots. Lots of space math, yes. I think to talk about the new flight system. How do you like the Caterpillar? You think will Caterpillar handle on surfaces? Probably the way she looks like she'd handle, like a wet noodle in the wind. Any indications Pyro being more than a simple pirate system? What do you mean, Dutch? By the way, guys, retweet and spread the love. You guys get a chance to. Did I say the wrong thing? No, I didn't. That's the right one. And no problem, Diddley. Where's Banu's space in relation to UEE space? There are hostile relations between border. No, very open borders. One thing the Banu love is free trade. Free love and free trade, baby. They are, I think the best way of describing it is they are southwestern border. So they're in the same, they share a border with the Vanduul and humanity. So they have to deal with Vanduul often. So west of Earth is Vanduul space. And then I think southwest and northeast of human space is Banu space. And then southeast is Xi'an space. Nice, man. That's why I got a whole D. No need to land on planets, just dock and sail. You want to dock your D, man? Whew, getting hot in here. There, Will. Whew, spicy. No problem, Jeremy. I love trying to wrap my brain around the star map and the different systems diverse. Yeah, because it's hard to, because it's three-dimensional space. Banu culture still confused me. What confuses you about Banu culture? The Suli? TOS, Will, TOS. Boom, boom. Plenty stuff, sorry. Okay, so there's a question that Adam Tresider had, who says, missed my opportunity to ask this last office hours, but I wanted to see what your thought about the most lacking part of Star Citizen lore. If you had your way, what part of lore would you like expanded on, and would you like to know more about? The end of the Mezer era, which is one of the reasons why I brought this up, because I saw that and I wanted to talk about this. So, how long do you think it'll take for Hull A and Hull B to be playable once the season game? I hope not long, but we'll see. It took, put it this way, the Cutlass Black rework came out in 3.0. The red came out in 3.8. And the blue came out in 3.9. So, pretty quickly after one another. So it could be years, or it could be 6 months. I don't know. Or one patch. I know the Banu have a fancy tea ceremony associated with their bigger trade deals. How hard do you think it'd be positioned to properly add the alien tea as a room feature? That would be cool. I'd like that. I don't think that'd be hard. I think it really depends on how they get the prop system set up. How advanced were the Banu and the UE first contact in relation to the UNE at the time? About the same. I think the UNE was probably slightly more advanced than the Banu. We weren't the first. They had made contact with the Xi'an and the Vanduul before we did. Do you see there being a way for the whole sea to get cargo out of the smaller outposts, like via smaller craft, bringing up cargo containers? Yeah, for sure. That's what the Argo is for. That's what the Argo SRV is for. That's part of its design, is to tractor cargo things off and on to passing freighters. Do the Banu and Kurthak share a border, or do they or contact? Not that we know of. We don't know if the Banu have contacted the Kurthak. We do know that the Xi'an have, though. Xi'an hate them, and they'd be pushing the Vanduul towards human space. We don't know. It's a theory. Who are the first spacefaring race? The Banu, probably the Xi'an. That we know of. Over the entire expansion of human empire up to today, what was the lowest point for the for unemployment throughout the empire? The closest point, it would likely be just after the fall of the Mezzers, or yeah, probably just after the fall of the Mezzers. Because a lot of companies went under. What I need about the star map is some sort of chart comparing to all the systems by size and AU. I mean, they have the numbers. I don't know if there's a chart about that, though. You might check the wiki. The wiki might have it. I don't think you'll see any difference. I don't think CIG is going to hide any systems behind alien species. I think if you're smart enough and clever enough and daring enough, you'll be able to find the Kurthak before CIG is ready for you to. I mean, mostly it's pretty steady economic growth. I would say probably during the Tavaran Wars, but it's also a wartime economy, so they probably wouldn't have an issue. And they were expanding consistently throughout the early years of humanity. You probably have some issues with unemployment very early on, where people are expanding into the solar system, but haven't quite left through the first jump points, because ships were still expensive. So you could only do it by buying a ticket on a ship, and the ships were owned by corporations or governments. Once that started to become more affordable, which wasn't too long after that, then you start to see more and more people leaving Earth. It's like the time period where you have the quantum drive, but you don't have the jump points, where you have this range where you have people stuck on Earth without the ability to leave. Are there religions in the verse? Yeah, the humans have a religion called the Church of the Traveler, which is less of a church and less of a religion, more of a spirituality, kind of more like an ideology, which is more about humans are meant to travel, humans are meant to explore, go out and be prosperous, spread across the stars. The Tavaran used to have a religion called Rejora, which is kind of like a Bushido mixed with Klingon style stuff, very Spartan-esque, very Bushido-esque, very warrior-esque, honor, duty, that kind of thing. There is a Xi'an religion, which escapes my memory. I'd have to look it up, which is about balance and tranquility. It's about cycles is the big thing about it. Banu, or the Vanduul, we don't really know, and the Banu have two major religions. One is the god of... They're polytheistic. They have a god of luck and a god of trade. the two major gods of the Banu. And their priests are the ones who are actually technically kind of the political leaders, because they're isolated from the rest of the Banu society, so they make a lot of the laws that end up being used throughout the Banu protectorate. If you want more detailed information about that, I did a couple lectures back in the day about all of that, so that kind of goes over the whole species and stuff like that. I'm going to make some videos about them as well, more breakdowns for that. Currently, the UEE is the most observed for the advocacy and the Navy in the game. Are other UEE agencies going to be seen? Which ones and how? Probably the UEE Department of Transportation, the Corps of Engineers, the Merchant Marines. You get the Marines, you get the Army. You probably will have... That's probably most of them. Definitely Department of Transportation would be something. Let me put it this way. This is a Chris Roberts game. I wouldn't put it past Chris Roberts to make everyone get a license to fly your ship. Go to the space DMV and pick up your space license. You got to make it realistic. You got to wait in line and get your space DMV. The God of Luck makes my laws. Yep. Hey, Solithan, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, Adrian, it's not very the human religions still exist though. So like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, those all still exist in the UAE. But the only new religion that exists for humanity is the Church of the Traveler that we know of so far. I'd fly turret we had in DMV. You wait in the line standing on a chair. No, I think honestly what you're probably going to see with something like a space DMV is if you're a new player, you go to spawn your ship, you'll get a prompt to go to the Department of Transportation, and you go into the building and you talk with the person behind the desk, and they go, "Oh, you're here for your licensure. The testing is right over there," and they direct you to an open. Here's your go to this sim pod, and it's like number whatever, and you just get assigned to go to a sim pod, sit down in the sim pod, and then walk through the basics of tutorials. And likely CIG will also have some sort of process where you can waive it, be like, hey, I'll just pay money and not have to go through the tutorial, and they'll be like, cool, here's your stuff. It's a way of making it more organic. Then of course you wouldn't have it if you didn't spawn in the UE system, so you could just spawn it anyway, but you'd get impounded if you ended up in a UE system. They'd be like, you don't have a licensure. So I wouldn't be surprised. Kuma? But not everyone's going to play Squadron 42, Jeremy. That's the thing. So, like, for instance, if you beat Squadron 42, something like that, you could easily be waived. But I think that's one of the biggest issues that Star Citizen has right now. It's a complicated game without a tutorial. Even basic tutorial. And the key is to make it organic. So not forcing people to go through tutorial before they even open up their hab. Just like they open up their hab, or they log in, and the first thing they see is a message, and the game prompts them to open up their mobiGlas. They open it up, and it says, hey, your test is here. Make sure you arrive on, arrive. And then if you try to spawn your ship, before you do that, it says, hey, it's been impounded. Make sure you go to the Department of Transportation. YouTube and forums. It is, but that's bad. That's bad for new player experience. Because Star Citizen is complicated and buggy, and even when it's less buggy in the future, it's still going to be complicated. The worst thing you can do for a game is say, go to YouTube That's a terrible method for retaining new players. No, so the beta of Squadron 42 is just their status. They're basically, when they reach beta, the core content is complete, but they need to go through and test it to make it fun, tweak the content they have. So the reason why they say beta is because that's what they're planning on. They're not planning on players playing the beta. Players are not going to have access to the beta. It's not going to be some sort of closed process. At best, it might be a very unique, small group of individuals who are okay with playing it. I really hope that when they reach that stage, they can give us like a demo. Like one of the missions is a demo for free. So that players have a chance to play the demo and non-backers have a chance to play the demo to see what is going on. Because that's very old school, and CIG is like that very old school kind of stuff. Riketsu, that's true, but you don't want it to. You don't want to. You want what you want to have is people go, "How do I equip my stuff?" It's like, "Have you done the tutorial yet?" No, do the tutorial. Like that's what'll happen. Yeah, Akuma. One of the big things that Squadron 42 is going to have, which Star Citizen doesn't have, is things like scripted boarding sequences, and there's going to be a lot of very on rails sections, which you won't see in Star Citizen. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're on a ship and it's being attacked by Vanduul. The cleaver, which is the drop pod, the boarding pod for the Vanduul, like punches through the hull. Now, you may not be there. You may be in another part of the ship when that happens, but you could also be right there. So they have to make it so that when that punches through, it punches through the hull in a way that works. That wouldn't work in Star Citizen because, you know, that's just for this level, essentially is what it is. So you have some of those sequences which will exist in Squadron 42, which will look cool as fuck, that don't exist in Star Citizen for that same reason. Is the Victus stuff only on PTU? Invictus? The Invictus launch week? Nah, that's over with. Kuma, the problem is that it's that kind of stuff, like what I just described, would require procedural damage states in a way that would be very expensive, essentially allowing for any parts of the ship to be breached. And that makes it complicated and overly so, to the point where it would make the progress of the game, which is already slow, even slower. So those kind of things are set pieces for Squadron 42 to make it look really cool. Why Squadron 42? Okay, so there's a couple things. First off, CIG, or Chris Roberts made a game called Wing Commander. And Wing Commander is a throwback to old World War II kind of war movies, including like Battle of Britain and stuff. And in the UK, I believe they use squadron and number for most of the RAF. I may be wrong if anybody here knows about the RAF, or used to at least. So before they had a different name for Wing Commander, and then they decided to call it Wing Commander because of there was some discussions about it. But Squadron 42 is for two reasons. One, it's a squadron, so it's a flight game, and 42 is a Easter egg. It's a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So if you don't know what a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is, 42 is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. That's the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. So it's actually a troll. The name is actually kind of a troll. But in lore, Squadron 42 is an elite unit of fighters that are individualistic. They act on their own accord. They're very loose in terms of their command structure. And the idea is that as a player, you're playing in the legendary Squadron 42. The first episode, you don't start in them. You kind of work your way into them. And then eventually, over time, you will be fighting with Squadron 42. Yes, Akuma, there's two ways. There is Patreon, which should be on my YouTube channel. Let me double check that real quick. If you go to my main YouTube channel, you'll see Galactic Historian Patreon. Just click that. You can support me there. I haven't activated any stuff on YouTube because I don't know if, like, I don't know the details with that. I'm mostly kind of thing on Twitch. But yeah, the Patreon is the best way of doing so. Hey, Grant. Welcome, man. I never beat GTA 5, and I played online, but I also played GTA 4, so I basically understood a lot of that. Thank you, Kumaman. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I do a Patreon. I have a Patreon, which is probably the best way of supporting me, even if you like my content on Twitch, because it's got the lowest rate. Like on Twitch, I love the subscriptions. I love you guys' support for that, but but Twitch only gives me 50% of that. So like currently we're at like 246 subscribers, which is fantastic, awesome. And 296 sub points, but I'm only getting a small portion of that total funds. Nico, it's Roman. What alien species are you really looking forward to in the game? So the Varan, probably the best ones first, because they're so interwoven into the history of humanity. Solotherm, you're talking about the Invictus stuff. I think I already said that. It's done. The Invictus launch week stuff is over with. It ended on Monday. So it was only going for an entire week. So if you missed it, it's gone. What's that, Damar? You didn't know that I had a Patreon? Oh, the 42? Yeah. It's a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Though in lore, they're a badass group of individual pilots. It ended on June 2nd. They extended for a couple of days. Today is June 2nd for me, so. Yes, they have talked about playing as non-human, but the last time they talked about it was 2013. A lot of things have changed since 2013, so. Yeah, so then it was a lot of issues going on with CIG's backend servers. They could make a movie out of FC. They probably will, knowing Chris. At least Squadron will. Thank you guys all for watching. Total of 178 people watching us. Damn. Crazy. Thank you. Thank you for the support. Okay. So we've got a couple of questions. I think I'm going to refresh this real quick. Jesus. Okay, Doctor, thanks for $100 on Patreon. Oh, okay. Okay, I gotta remember what my Patreon benefits are for $100. Oh yeah, you get to do one video of your choice. Tell me what you want me to do. Thank you, Kuma man. That's a lot of money. We got some shots and cheers in chat. Woo! Would really, really like an update on Death of a Spaceman. Yeah, we all would. Man. I hope I'm worth $100. When I personally see, I don't ever see it going into open beta. I don't ever see it going into open beta. CIG is very, very tight about it. They want players to experience it the first time in game. So I see it going into closed beta maybe next year. I mean, they've said that they haven't changed any of their estimations yet, so maybe this year. But either this year or next year, I think the earliest we see release is December 2021. And the latest I see release is December 2022. Thank you, Kuma man. Nice, Hells, nice. Yeah, I think release was probably looking at December 2021. That's at least what they're shooting for. Whereas, with wiggle room anywhere between the beginning and end of 2022. You can get a hold of Board Gamer, and you can get a hold of his contacts at CIG to update Death of a Spaceman. They've actually talked about it recently, and what they always say is the line, which is Death of a Spaceman is still planned, but things do change when they get to it. And some of the changes they've already made to it, which is like food, is a big deal. They change it. Oh, right. So, I'm going to pause the questions for a moment, guys. Yeah, and as Tree is saying, Squadron 42 Episode 2, which is the... Squadron 42 is set to be a trilogy of 3 different games. The second and third game will be a lot easier to make because they're just going to use the assets from Squadron 42, update them, and then use those assets. They don't have to build an engine and everything else like that. They're just going to take their assets, update them, and pass that along to Episode 2. Aaron Roberts is fairly certain that he can do that in 2 years per game. So Squadron 42 was released in 2021. Then, at least according to Aaron's past estimates, Squadron 42 Episode 2, the second game, Behind Enemy Lines, is 2023. And then the last one would be 2025. Oh, there'll definitely be a beta for the PU. Yeah, the what I like to call beta for Star Citizen is just soft launch. When CIG reaches beta state for the PU, it's out, it's done. They won't wipe anymore. They even said that. When they reach a beta release, it's basically released, but they won't call it released. First off, because beta will not have 100+ systems and all of the aliens in game. For instance, like we might see the Tavarn and the Banu. We'll definitely see some Vandul, but we won't have like Vandal kingships flying around in the verse, that kind of stuff yet. There'll be a lot of other things that need to happen before that, but not in terms of gameplay like features. Then they'll add the content over time, and then once they feel like they're at a good point for content, then they'll have some sort of big old 1.0 release party thing. Yep, that's especially for Squadron 42 for Star Citizen. They've said that beta is more feature complete, not content complete. So things are done. They're not going to add like mining, smuggling. Those systems will be complete, but they won't have all of the star systems done. A block, maybe close to it at least. I mean, my personal estimation is probably sometime in 2021. So I could definitely see a beta release for Star Citizen anywhere between 21 and 22. But I've been wrong in the past about that. It's the hardest thing to judge because there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. I mean, you got to get salvage, repair, refuel, restock, bounty hunting, piracy, info running. The biggest issues is repair and salvage at this point. Once those are in, and in exploration and science, all of that kind of stuff, which is like production even. There's a lot of other little things you have to get done. President of Earth, please. There's a lot of that. The biggest issues for Star Citizen isn't really the gameplay right now. It's the back end stuff. When they've got their framework done for Star Citizen, like the back end framework finished, the gameplay becomes easier to figure out because now they know what they're working with in terms of assets. They're like, okay, this is what we have in terms of the back end. This is the toolbox upon which we can pull out tools and start working. And then it becomes easier to kind of figure out how you can hook things into different parts, how you can like bend the system this way or that way to get it to do what you want it to do. And then that's how they work with, for instance, the room system. The room system was built for stations, and they're just like, let's use it for everything else. So they use it for caves. They use it for jump points. They're going to be using it. I wouldn't be surprised if they used it for, cities in the future, just like internal areas of landing zones or, small outposts. How's info running going to work? Information is picked up probably in terms of like server blades or like kind of like boxes sort of things. You put it in your computer slots. So it basically takes up a computer slot. The information does, and then you fly to a location, take it out of the computer slot, and place it into where you need to place it. It's essentially what box hauling is right now, only you have to have a dedicated place to put it. And the reason why that's important is because when you have it in a hardened computer core, it can't be hacked, it can't be intercepted. That's the point. And the devil's in the details when it comes to that. Yeah, it's kind of like Rogue One. Rogue One, end of Rogue One, beginning of The New Hope. Vulcan never make people gain anything in most games. It does. It makes it run on lower software or lower hardware. They've also said that the signed distance fields is big because they're still working on the old GPU renderers. So a lot of the things that allow them to render more things faster and smoother has to do with Vulkan. So that should fix some performance issues, as well as allow for the game to look more pretty. All right. So let's get in on, after almost 2 hours in, let's actually get into the discussion I was going to have. So for those of you guys who are interested in Star Citizen lore, that's what I do with Galactic Historian, !GH in chat. If you're watching me on YouTube, I have an entire playlist on the front page of my YouTube. Go there. I'm not going to explain the measures, but all you got to know is that there was a series of one family controlling the entire fate of humanity. They're the ones who created the United Empire of Earth out of the old United Planets of Earth, and they created the role of the Imperator, or the leader, the first citizen, as Mez would like to call himself, or Ivor would like to call himself. So over time, as any dictatorships go, the Mezers began to lose power, and so they started ratcheting up the black bagging, secret police work, making people disappear, that kind of stuff. They started to use the advocacy, which was the UEE's police force, as kind of like a secret police to spy on its citizens. And as this went on, it became very difficult for people to voice resistance against the Mezers, specifically Terrans. Those from the Terra system were very angry at the Mezers, and it's really the root of most of the political issues in the UEE today is the Terrans and the Earthers, the Soul, people from the Soul. They're very much politically, economically, socially in conflict with one another. So during this time period, the Mezers were trying to get every little bit of advantage they could. So they made a lot of friends. Like for instance, the husband of Linton Mezer, the last Mezer's sister, was the one who caused all of the havoc that would bring down the emperor during the Tide incident, where his brother-in-law's terraforming company knowingly murdered a sentient species that was primitive to terraform a world, and the evidence got out and it overthrew the Mezers because it was the brother-in-law of the imperator. And that wasn't like it wasn't a huge thing. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. So in this kind of universe, child slavery was a common occurrence. Children, especially children who didn't have parents, like orphans, were often acquired by the state and then forced to work in factories in order to keep their homes. So you can think of it as like you find an orphan on the street, they give them a job, and then they can stay in tenement housing if they work that job. So I think he was like 8 or 9 year old. Anthony Tanaka was working in a factory, helping to make materials. And he pulled a 24-hour shift. Let me look up the details for this one, just because this one I want to make sure I get it right, like 100% right. He actually worked in Newcastle, which is the capital of Magnus, or Berea in the Magnus system. So Magnus is where Drake Interplanetary is headquartered today. He was born in 2745 and died in 2757, so he was 12. He was the son born of 2 workers in the slums of Newcastle, Berea. At the time of his birth, Newcastle was an important manufacturing site for war goods. The government ruled over the planet with a hard hand. People disappeared, and the movement was controlled by checkpoints. Child work was widespread. The population lived under harsh conditions. At age 7, Tanaka was ordered to work at an airbowl planet, cleaning scrubber systems, working 6 days a week. After the takeover of Lane Corpus, life conditions deteriorated much further. So he actually had parents, fortunately for him, unfortunately for, I guess, for his parents. He had to work a 16-hour shift, and when he got off his shift, his supervisor told him that he had to cover for a a fellow worker who was sick or was injured and couldn't come into work. And Tanaka was 12, so he snapped and started screaming at his supervisor that he wasn't going to work. And got a lot of attention. People stopped working, kept turning around and looked at him. He was just losing it in front of his supervisor. Now, it also happens that likely his supervisor was a former advocacy agent, and we have video. They had video which was playing, a video that was recording this incident, and he pulled out a gun and shot Anthony Tanaka in the head on the factory floor in front of everybody for refusing to take the shift. This footage leaked all over the UEE in the Mesr era, caused riots, protests, but it's many cases the birth of the rebellion against the Mesrs. And this is in game right now. If you go to Delamar, at the landing zone of Delamar, as you come in, you'll see a statue of a man cradling a young boy, and it says, "Remember Anthony Tanaka and join us." That is a statue in honor of Anthony Tanaka. And there's actually a holiday in game, which is December 3rd. So December 3rd is in remembrance of Anthony Tanaka. So, and it's a holiday in game. Yeah, this was in lore 4 years ago. So, yeah, the Mesrs weren't exactly nice people. Yeah. I'll put you guys the link in chat here for you guys so you guys can see it. Hey, Barker. So there's a link to the actual story about Anthony Tanaka. Ivor is probably the closest to it. His daughter was all right, but Dodge Lambo, heat death of the video game. Hey, they're 17 minutes. Or 17 minutes. 17 minutes. 17 months. Thank you so much, man. Yeah. His coworker went into anaphylactic shock after exposure to a ruptured chemical canister. So he was ordered. His foreman was ordered to return to shift. He refused. The boy was 12 years old. Withered, rail thin from exhaustion and malnutrition, stood his ground against the foreman, and again the boy refused. The foreman tried to silence the child, but the boy kept refusing. His voice eventually overcame the screech and din of the working factory, attracting the attention of other workers who watched in silence. Machines slowly stopped until there was just the defiant, sobbing voice of Anthony Tanaka, repeatedly refusing to work anymore. A guardsman entered the facility floor, calmly approached the young boy, took one look at his dirty face, drew his sidearm. The whole time, the workers did nothing. So. Sub a minute. Yeah, I think there'll be Vandal raids in Star Citizen that players can like play around with. But yeah, this is a piece of history that not a lot of people know about in Star Citizen lore. It is often marked as, in my mind, the beginning of the active insurrection movement that would happen in the Mesrs. After this, you have the rise of Linton Mesr. So Linton had a father whose name was Ulysses Mesr, and Ulysses was kind of crazy, and Linton was kind of power hungry, so he killed Ulysses. But he didn't just kill Ulysses, he actually went around finding rebel groups around the UEE and bringing them into his fold. He essentially found them on his personal dime and paid for them to be trained. So he trained several rebel groups around the Empire, taught them how to subvert military broadband, taught them all sorts of insurgency techniques. And then when the time came, those rebel groups attacked, helped Linton attack his father and seized the imperatorship by murdering his father. And then after this, Linton went about trying to kill all of the rebels to try to prevent them from turning on him. The problem is that Linton isn't exactly the smartest cookie in the bunch. Brought his bulb in the pack, and several of them got away. So within his lifetime, those groups rejoined, reformed up, and Linton was the last measure because these rebel groups managed to use what they learned from Linton to overthrow him. But a lot of these people wouldn't even haven't been inspired to fight. Even the founder of Crusader Industries was an anti-Measure activist. And people like Anthony Tanaka are the reason, because the guy who founded Crusader Industries was an orphan living on the streets of Angeli. And he managed to make it through a lot of luck and some good timing. So he used his like benefits to try to overthrow the Measures, because to him it's like Anthony Tanaka could have been him. It's supposed to kind of remind that. It is very grim. And I think the reason why I like this story in terms of Star Citizen lore is because most of lore in Star Citizen is focused heavily around governments or government activities. It's the big man theory of history kind of thing. You have some people who you see them getting involved, like the people who find jump points and stuff like that, little stories here and there. But Anthony Tanaka is an example of something that happened in Star Citizen's history that feels dark and feels real to a degree, but also has a huge impact. He was just a 12-year-old kid, but he has a huge impact on the rest of humanity. So, hey, Barker. Sergeant 42 occurs before the time in PU. That's right. I don't know what it is, Ronan. Burke's Raid. Hey, welcome everyone from Captain Burke's. We just talked about one of the darkest parts of Star Citizen lore. Welcome. What did Paul Tardy ask? When do you see dynamic economy being tested? Well, we're in 3.9, so not 3.4. You're talking about 4.0? I would say sometime next year would probably be the earliest time we'll see the dynamic economy. Likely the end of next year. We get a follow command for Captain Burks. I don't know if we have any mods in chat. Any idea how they will handle the whole voting for Imperator thing? I don't know how they'll do it with players, but it's gosh, what's it called? Oh, there's a name for it, and I'm blanking on it. It's an actual thing that exists in real life. Ranked choice. It's a ranked choice ballot. That's why they do runoffs. We're on to the third runoff. I'll do it. There we go. Thank you, Diablos. And I'll do follow for Loken Plays. There we go. Let's do some, let's do this. Boop and boop. Give you guys some beers for this. We'll do a giveaway tomorrow. We'll be playing some Star Citizen tomorrow. You guys on the Twitch. Ranked choice, yeah. So if those of you guys who don't know ranked choice voting is a system where you have a ballot, and then you choose like a certain number of people. So like if you have like 6 people on the ballot, you choose a number based off of your preference. So you choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so then they look at the votes and they go, okay, so in the first round, the person who had the most number one votes is these three people. Okay. And so then the bottom three get removed. And then they go, okay, now we're not going to throw away the votes of those people who've already voted. Let's go through their second choices. And then they sort through the second choices and they go through each choice ranking until until you end up with two people, and whoever has the most votes, the highest number of those votes wins. So essentially, even if you voted for one person, if that person's gone, you still have a say in terms of who you next would like to vote for. It's a system that does exist in reality. In the United States, there are some states which are trying to implement this, and there's a lot of movement for this to be kind of a way to fix elections in America, being just one or two people. This way you could have third-party candidates who have more of a chance of winning, because if the first choice is this candidate, but that one loses, and their second choice is that one is another one, those votes will still be counted towards a right candidate. Yeah, Australia does it. Oh, I would too, Legion. I would too. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a citizen's guide to the verse kind of thing. Emotes should be working. Okay, I don't know what's going on. A fair vote. Yeah. Who won the first Cutlass Blue? His name was Ron. Ron 69, 1969 was his name. Yeah, Maine does it, yeah. Yeah, Barker, the only problem is that ranked choice voting is the two-party system doesn't like it. But it works really well for Star Citizen, because how the Star Citizen vote systems work for the Imperator is that there's not a party system. Parties exist, but anyone with its right number of votes wins. And so each round you vote for, you have a ranked choice of who you choose from, and then when that person's removed, your votes go through. So you have thousands of votes for the first time. The top, I think, 8. I have to go back and look at how the elections work, but it's like a top certain number make it. I think it's the 8. Top 8 make it, and then you have the top 5, and then you're left with the top 3. And the top 3 are the last ones that vote for it. We're actually on the top 5 now. So it might be 10, 5, and 3. Each round of voting, you eliminate certain candidates, so you only have the best candidates left. Jeremiah? Steve Cohen? Jeremiah, the bullfrog? He's a good friend of yours? Are you serious, Steve? You know him? He's born... That's... Okay, Steve, you know that's still funny, though, right? It's still hilarious. It's still hilarious. I would do that for every one of my login names if I was born on June 9th, 1969. That kind of makes it funnier. Yeah, the fact that he uses it in his name, it's like he intentionally uses it as a joke. I love that. The Legion said something? Oh, yeah, Barker, I agree. It's the thing that lore can change on the fly, but the history of the lore shouldn't. Once Star Citizen gets to a point where they've more finalized the universe, then doing a compendium on what they have finalized would be great. Like the history of the Devarin Wars, the history of the early spaceflight in humanity, the history of the Mezzers. Like those little details are pretty cool. I don't know. I don't know. That'd be funny all the time. But I'm the kind of guy who, when Senor Titi Sprinkles shows up in chat, I'm like, I love that name. It's so funny. Senor Titi Sprinkles. Hola. Yo soy Senor Titi Sprinkles. I'm here to make love. For those of you guys who don't know, there is a guy who hangs out in our chat sometimes called Senor Titi Sprinkles. I was wondering if there are any videos from your previous Galactic Historian shows. You got about 48 hours? Because that's how much content I have for my videos. Exclamation point GH in chat there, Villa. That'll give you a link to my to the Galactic Historian YouTube playlist. That playlist, I've actually modified it a little bit because enough people have asked me to resort it a little bit so that it makes it easier for people to kind of watch it. So what I've done is I've put the recommended first watches at the very beginning, and then everything else is just kind of like as it goes. So I have certain videos that you should watch at the very beginning that kind of give you context for the universe, and then it's a little bit more in depth, and then everything else is just kind of more random because there's no real order that I do the videos in. I just kind of do them, what are interesting or what's topical, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, there's let me see how many hours there is for this. There's 66 videos. We used to be able to the number of hours it has. Yeah, there are 66 videos in that. The smallest videos are about 2 minutes long. The longest videos are about an hour long. I only have a couple of hour-long videos, but that's something like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The best thing you can do is watch the first 4 videos and then just hit random and just watch through that. There's at least like 24 hours of video in that. So you want to binge. We got a long stuff you can binge on. Barker, the UEE isn't the only one who uses the whole sea. So does the Xi'an. So both the UEE and the Xi'an Empire use the whole sea as their primary transportation ship. That's why it's the most common ship in the verse. They use it for military. They use it for civilian. They make them in the Xi'an Empire. They're one of the few human ships that are made in the Xi'an Empire. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Misc and the Xi'an Empire have had a working relationship for like 100 years or so. The Freelancer uses some Xi'an technology. So the Starfarer doesn't, I think, but a lot of that technology exchange was because the whole series is simple. Only a handful of people can have to run it, and it holds so much cargo. So what the Xi'an have done is they have purchased the rights to make the whole series in Xi'an territory. I'm sure the Xi'an have a different transportation unit than the UEE does, so they just modify them so that they can hold Xi'an cargo units. So so they have a slightly modified version. The spindle is modified, which is a lot easier. Yeah. Which has led to the Reliant. The Reliant is like half Xi'an, half human in terms of its design and build. Alcinor, thank you so much for hanging out, man. We're actually probably going to call it a night here shortly anyways. Yeah, the Reliance is just the most recent in the long line of Xi'an and Misc cooperation. Yes, Dutch Oven. God, what's the name of it? I've got an episode I've written, but I haven't recorded yet on it. Bar today, there it is. Shoo! Shoo! Sneezy. Branagh 2. That's the name of it. Branagh 2. So Branagh 2 is a world where the Xi'an or the Tavaran live. There's a couple of other settlements. The Olympus, the UES Olympus settlement is run by a Tavaran pirate lord. But Branagh 2 is the largest settlement outside of UEE space. The main settlement of Tavaran in UEE space is Jalan, which is the home world of the Tavaran. So, thank you. There's like a way to swap ship features, like the cockpit, like missile locks, or even guns, for example. Not really. There are ways of swapping guns and missiles, but not cockpit features yet. That's something they want to plan on doing in the future, though. You did one. You did win there, Ron. You won. You won the Cutlass Blue. So I'll send it to you tomorrow. Oh. Barrack? Nope. Just Aegis. Hey, Xylo. How you doing, buddy? Now, we're still giving away... Speaking of Xylo, we're still giving away a Cutlass courtesy of CIG. Exclamation point Cutlass to get it on that one. And for those of you guys who are watching on YouTube, it's down there in the doobly-doo top pin comment. I'm here for lore, leave for the Cutlass. Yeah. When will players play their javelins and Idrises? I mean, what you do in your own personal time is up to you there, man. Don't tell me when you're playing with your javelin. What if you want to call it? You can call it that. I don't. Probably not until after Squadron 42 is released. Also, Ron, that's a baller name. Someone else told me that it's actually your birthday, and I'm just like, if that was my birthday, I would use it everywhere I go, just because I'm a troll, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I'll be going to sleep here shortly. We're kind of coming down on that point. I was a bit English speak it. I was about an hour late to streaming, so. Is your birthday coming up there, Ron? It's June 9th. So you got a Cutlass Blue for your birthday. June 9th, 1969. Oh yeah. Words are hard. English is a bad language. But yeah, Solotherm, the Javelin and the Idris is after Squadron 42. Last we heard. They may change. I'm sure that there's some issues in the back end as well. When will the Nova tank be playable? I'm hoping soon. I can imagine that's something that's going to be very important for future Theaters of War expansions they want to do. And with the Starlifter seeming like it's on the fast track to being done this year, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Nova by the end of the year. Quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it in December, or if not, by early next year. So we're in the faces of 3 different languages? Yeah. Adding your birthday? I mean, from the sounds of things, both the Star Runner and the Star Lifter are being worked on at the same time. And imagine that the Star Runner would probably be done before the Star Lifter. So if the Star Runner is done right now, it's planned in 3.11, which is not this next coming patch, but the patch after that. Then I would imagine the Star Lifter would be done in 3.12 or 4.0, whichever is coming after 3.12 or 3.11. That's, barring anything crazy happening, like Chris Roberts waking up and being like, I have an idea. What if it had a gigantic railgun on top? Don't, Chris, please, God. Would be a bad idea. Yeah, Maker, I believe that the C2, I honestly don't see a lot of difference between the M2 and the C2. The A2 is a garbage. It's not worth it. You're getting a bomb. I mean, that's what you get. You get an M2 with a bomb. It's a big bomb, but I don't see the value in the price. I talked about this on the Info Runners, but the C2 Crusader is designed. They build Crusaders tough. And the gas giant known as Crusader, we have a down-home human design. So we like to survive, to make sure our ships survive the harshest conditions. With a towing capacity of up to 4 million tons, the Star Lifter is the ship you need when you need to get the job done. Like a wreck. So, because it's got a reputation for that, I would imagine the C2 is something you can drop stuff in, but you can't, drop it onto a battlefield. Whereas the M2 is like oh, hey, there's a fight going down there. Let's just drop right into it and roll the tanks out. That kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, C2 gets a little bit more capacity and a little speed over the M2. Yeah, C is civilian versus M is military. Yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna play it because YouTube would hate it, but I still think you could take the song, Mercury, the original Mercury song, and turn it into a Star Citizen commercial. When the Star Runner comes out, I'm going to make that commercial with, I'm going to find someone who can sing and rework the Crazy About a Mercury song, because it says like the lyrics is like a handful of changes and you could turn it into it. Because Crazy About a Mercury 49, the Star Runner is a 49 version. It was built, it came out in 2949. That was when its concept sale was. I'm gonna buy me a Mercury and cruise it up and down the verse. You know, it would work. Like, yeah, they exist. The Pelican, the Mercury Pelicans, or the Valkyrie Pelicans. The Valkyrie already has the ability to hold a gun, like a Warthog equivalent. Not a tank, obviously. Essentially, the bottom two in that picture, the Warthog and then the extra, like, troop transports, put those together and you got a Valkyrie. Yeah, I'll give you a link. I saw the link, so. How good is Crusader Industry is make the is ships? They're pretty good. I mean, they've got a pretty good reputation for toughness, simplicity, easy, sort of simple, easy to fix, and they're tough. They're just expensive because they're big. Not just the concepts. You got to remember that the concepts and the lore are the basis for most of the CIG's design. They start from the lore and the role. So, like for a ship, they go, okay, what do we want to make? And then which manufacturer would be best to make it? And so they put those two ideas together, and then as they build it out, you start to get more of an idea. And so then they start coming up with lore for the ship itself within the company and explaining why that was made, who made it, that kind of thing. So with the example of like Crusader generally makes tough, simple, tough, easy to maintain ships. They're like the high-end version of Drake, whereas Drake is simple to maintain, but they're low cost. Crusader is like an upscaled Drake. Easy to maintain, rugged, and expensive. We don't know where they're on tractor beams. Nothing yet. Nothing solid yet. I don't know if you can... The thing about the Novas is, like, I'm going to be honest, Tree. There's no way to drop a tank in modern day military outside of a parachute or a cargo plane. It's really hard to drop one in with troops, unless you have a very specialized vehicle. So that's what the M2 is. Whereas the Valkyrie is more of a multi-purpose. It has up to 12 or 24 jump seats, and it can also hold a vehicle in the back, which is pretty cool. But the slogan works, yeah. Essentially, what Crusader feels like is as if Misc or Argo and Drake had a fling. It's the offspring, the bastard offspring of Misc and Drake. So they also tend to translate into actual game stuff as well. For instance, repairs refuel of Misc and Drake is very cheap compared to Aegis ships. So I imagine the Crusader is going to be somewhere in between. Like the repairs will be pretty cheap, but the refuel will be expensive. Hey Anton, how you doing, buddy? You can stack cargo a little bit of it, but you can't stack much of it. Thank you for that follow, Anton. And Lutix. You guys for all the follows. I'm happy with my Connie Andromeda and my Prospector. I think the Connie is getting a bad rep. I think it eventually will be a lot more popular once they have fixed apparently the turrets. So, hey Flawbot, how you doing, buddy? For what though, Anton? Because I mean, like, I can see it. You needing the cargo for like in a battlefield situation. You need it for like just like kick the top off and be like, hey, it's Christmas. I'm handing out magazines, you know. Or you get a med pen. You get a med pen. Everyone gets a med pen, you know. But I don't see it as like a trading ship, you know. But you have to swap out its vehicle capability for that. Are there any surprise ships you think they will do surprise reveals of? And if so, what? I'm probably wrong. I'm like 99% wrong. But on the off chance I'm right, the Anvil Battlecruiser. And they named them after various things. You've got the Hornet, the Gladiator, the Valkyrie. What's a good name for a battle cruiser? The Thor. The Anvil Thor. Or Odin. The Anvil Odin. The Odin rumor, yeah. The Aegis Bearcat is actually in lore. We don't know if it actually exists in game, though. It was built to compete against the Hawk, I want to say. The Anvil Hawk and the Aegis Bearcat went head-to-head, and the Hawk, they both won. They tied. And so the Bearcat and the Hawk both went into military service, and then they swapped them out for another one. So it's hard to tell if the Redeemer is going to be worth it or not. I hate those engines. I freaking hate that ship with fiery passion, only because there were better ships that should have won. I don't hate it as much as I used to, because a lot of those ships that should have won ended up in the game anyways. So Anvil O'Neill. The Anvil Ragnarok would be a good one. I still think the Anvil Mjolnir is too. It's too on the nose. I think the Anvil, like Thor or Anvil Odin, would be good. Called it the O'Neill, yeah. Hey Ram, how's it going? Do you think the push-pull mechanic being worked on will allow us to personally load our cargo ships? Yeah, I think that's part of it. CIG wants to give as much manual control to players as they possibly can without making the game tedious. Yeah, that's more of like a building Shylock. Ares is already taken. You could call it the Athena. The Anvil Athena. Or the Anvil Osiris, because it brings the sun into your face. The Anvil Hathor. Is Hathor the right one? No, it's Osiris's. Yeah, he's got a son, right? Anvil Anubis. Well, the Zeus, RSI did. RSI made the Zeus. That was one of the original affordable ships that everyone can have. You can call it the Anvil Jupiter, but that's already been taken by Crusader. You don't want it too complicated. Like Mjolnir and Jotunheim are both are both too not friendly English to English. The Phoenix is already taken because you've got the Connie Phoenix already exists. I I guess you could. It's not really a hunter, otherwise I'd say the Orion. But the Orion's also taken too because that's a mining ship. You're running out of Greeks, Greeks and Romans. I think the Osiris would sound cool. The Anvil Osiris sounds really cool. It's pronounced Ta. Which is Shylock? Oh, Ta, the Egyptian god of metalworkers and blacksmiths. But the thing is that you don't want it to be, because like any kind of metalworking you would associate with repair, and while it's cool to say like the Mjolnir because it's a hammer, but it's also the hammer of the gods and it's anvil and they strike it. I think the Thor would make more sense, or the Odin. The Odin sounds like a battle cruiser. The Anvil Odin. like damn son. The Anvil Kratos, yeah. The Caesar, yeah, that'd work. Or even better, the Anvil Kaiser. Get some German names in there. The Anvil Artemis would be too hunting. That'd be more like a smaller ship. Anvil Africanus. The Anvil Scipio. Ooh, no, there we go. The Anvil Hannibal. Lightning gun, but capital class. Yeah. Well, see, like, in my mind, an Anvil battlecruiser would have one big cannon as a spinal-mounted railgun, or top and bottom turrets, which are just railguns, and then rows of semi-mobile, like half-arc broadside cannons. So you've got full top and bottom full turrets that will move around, which are railguns, kind of like the railguns you see on the Bengals, but spread out over smaller areas. And then you've got just rows of side-mounted turret guns, size 5 and up. Something that doesn't have any fighter support. Its pure job is to go into the brawl and just start destroying everything it sees. A, fits with Anvil. B, everyone would want that DACA. That would be what I'd like to see. From Drake. Just take the terrapin and turn it into a capital ship. Anvil Apocalypse. The Anvil Ragnarok, which sounds pretty cool too. Don't match. I think that's the joke there, Dutch Oven. Well, they have a bird theme going on, so why not the Falcon? Because that's much more of like a fighter ship. Because you've got the Anvil ships are the Hurricane, the Hornet, the Gladiator, the Valkyrie, the Hawk. Say there's something I'm missing. The Ballista. So most of these are ancient, and the Arrow, ancient names. So Ballista and Arrow, ancient weapons. The Hornet is more just probably the only outlier. The Gladiator, ancient warrior. You've got the Valkyrie, ancient, demigoddess sort of thing. You've got the Terrapin, which is a turtle. And you've got the Hurricane, which is up there with the Hornet kind of thing. The Anvil Roadrunner, that'd be pretty cool. Crucible. You know what we need? We need a is going to sound terrible. Human name for it, though. A Tavaran ship called the Emu. A Tavaran medium fighter that the humans called the Emu. Similar to how in America, we call very different. The name of Japanese bombers and fighters were given American names rather than their Japanese names. The Tavaran Emu. Every Australian in the chat is just lost itself. The anvil phallus, yeah. Called the bucket. Flying emu. I would give my saber for a Tavaran emu. A Tavaran emu as a ground vehicle? Yeah. Cassowary? That actually sounds pretty good. That sounds obscure enough that most people wouldn't get the reference. But nasty enough that those who do don't get it. Well, right. Cassowary is just it's Deathbird, isn't it? Oh, it's a cousin of the emus and the ostriches and such, right? Yeah, flightless bird. Tavaran hover tank, the emu. Argo honey badger. No. That is straight up a Drake ship. The Drake honey badger. Drake don't give a shit. Do we have a Typhoon? We don't. That would be a good. That'd be a great anvil ship, but it'd probably be something that we already have, like a heavy fighter, maybe like a competitor to the Ares and the Vanguard. Argo Dodo. Tavaran Shrike. That would work too. Hey, Buster. How does it sound, though? Buster, hear me out on this one. A ship, I guess, or a land vehicle called the Tavaran Emu. You know the Drake Drop Bear. Yes. The Drake tank. The Drake Drop Bear. Hear me out on this one. The Tavaran Emu isn't a ship or a land vehicle. It's the Tavaran power armor. They don't. I'd love to see the Starseeker as its own standalone ship, and I still think the Star Hunter scaled up, eventually like a Cutlass Blue, but a little bit scaled up, like a civilian version of a Polaris. It just falls apart. The Armadillo, yeah. Drake's refuel and rearm. What do they used to call them? They used to call them powder kegs. They used to call them armories. The Drake Armory, maybe. Tavaran giant sloth power armor. Terrible idea. When do we get Starliner and passenger transport missions? Probably when we get more, because right now CIG is working on. They have NPCs exiting ships mostly down. Now they got to figure out how they can get NPCs to enter ships. So it's an AI thing. Emus are nasty, dude. Farmers in the United States buy emus to protect their farms because they scare away predators. Don't start another. I mean, that's essentially what the Tavaran Wars were, though, Aimless. It was just the Emu War Part 2 and 3. Is NPCs exiting a ship in the PU? So it's not available in the PU, but they've showed it off that they've worked on it. The last CitizenCon, they showed NPCs exiting a ship with their own AI. But they haven't talked about. They've talked about they want to be able to enter the ship as well. Yeah, they have commercial side of New Babbage. They also have a commercial flight for what's it called? In ArcCorp and in Lorville. Area 18 in Lorville. Yep. Yeah, they have the drop pods for UE Marines are called the Nails. They haven't got a lot of work on them yet because I think they're trying to work out some of the details. When do you expect the full economy that Tony showed off will become part of the game? Earliest next year. They're actively working on it, but there's a lot of back-end stuff that needs to get done before they can do it. And AI stuff that they get fixed. Nailed it. Can we get a follow command for Anton and for Buster the Destroyer? Anton's another streamer, streams on Twitch. Does a lot of Escape from Tarkov, but he also sometimes joins us in our addiction to internet spaceships and plays some Star Citizen. And Buster the Destroyer is your Klingon. It's the only Klingon in Star Citizen. She plays as a Klingon in Star Citizen. You need to watch her play Klingon Star Citizen, which is like Thursday or Friday. So, follow me to Kronos. Yes. It's true that Chris is working on code for physics rework. I think that's true. I don't know if it's the physics rework or if he's also working on some other stuff as well. There's a couple of different things that are being worked on for physics. One is the ability to nest physics grids inside of each other, but to be able to separate them and put them back together. That's to deal with that's to deal with docking and undocking. That has to deal with escape pods. That has to deal with lots of little ancillary things. So, for instance, if you're in a ship right now, everything that's in the ship is its own is part of the ship. And when you try to load things onto a ship, you get these wonky physics grids going crazy, is because the physics grids aren't always matching up properly. So the last thing they want to do is have a ship where you have like the escape pods as a separate entity that are bouncing all over the place and just flying out into space. So escape pods and docking both have to be going to work in the same way, where you had to take two physics grids and turn them into one physics grid, and then you remove those two and they can become separate physics grids again. And it works the same with Hull C. Now there's a lot of more details involved in each one of those, but overall the same issues exist. They seem to have tackled it or are in the process of tackling it for docking, so it means that the other stuff's being tackled as well. Now there was also some physics reworks in terms of how physics zones work within one another. That had to do with OCS or something like that, SOCS for socks. There's some technical issue with that. I don't know the details on that, but I do know that there is the one physics rework that a lot of people talk about is that. We can load ships onto ships and walk off them onto the main ship with no physics glitch. Why is this so different? Because it's more than just that. It's also when you're flying around, every so often it'll fly off. It's also the ability to essentially spawn the ship in with another ship inside of it on a specific zone. And the snub fighters of the Constellation series is another example, because it's not actually in a hangar; it's in its own cradle. So it has to be, when it's in the cradle, it has to be considered part of the ship. It's gotten better, but there's some other stuff they have to work on, and it has to specifically do with docking and undocking. The rest of that stuff is also important for it. Yeah, exactly. I spend too much time paying attention to this game. Thank you, Drew. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night. I've streamed a little extra longer than I normally would just because I had to cut out a bunch of stuff in the beginning. If you guys did enjoy this, please hit that follow button if you haven't already done so. If you guys are already following us on Twitch, please do consider subscribing to us on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, do the things. And remember, exclamation point Cutlass, because we're giving away a Cutlass Blue, courtesy of CIG. Thank you, CIG. This is an LTI Cutlass Blue for you guys in celebration of the Cutlass Blue being out. Let's see, what else do we got? Yeah. Ooh, right. Before you go, Jumptown Wars Episode 2 being released tomorrow or Thursday. I have to do some double check to make sure it's good, but it'll definitely be released this week. So Episode 2 of Jumptown Wars is coming out this week. So if you guys have missed it, if you guys who don't know what it is the first time where the in-game lore and players' actions have made it into lore, and where those two things have combined, where players' actions and lore combine. So I made a documentary which covers the events of the Jumptown Wars. It is not a exhaustive documentary, but it is essentially giving you an idea for those of you guys who weren't here during the Jumptown Wars, which made it into lore. So kind of sets you up for a kind of good idea of what the first backer in-game lore stuff was. So that's coming out soon. Love you guys. And for those guys who are on YouTube hitting exclamation point Cutlass, it's in the top pinned comment on the comments on the video. So if you're watching my video very well, straight at the bottom, you'll see the YouTube comments. It's there as well. So love you guys. Have a good night.